Hey guys, this is Gatsby with Tape, and today you join me for episode 22 of Fall of Kerbin, and there is a massive impending threat on Hacksaw Ridge. There is a huge amount of tanks coming for Kethenia's valley, and there are a large amount of planes guarding them. So we're sending up 5 S-6F Sparrows to go and deal with the Air Force so we can roll in our tanks without having any problems. So yes, we're taking off. The snow looking way too bright because I did this at midday, which means that the snow is super bright. But yes, anyway, now we're just flying over to the forward operating base, entering load range. The planes are kind of freaking out at this, I guess, just sort of when it gets quite laggy, they don't really know how to fly as well. And yeah, we're just going to try and tempt out those Krolan fighters and then take them away from the AA fire, because there are 88mm emplacements down there with 10km ranges. We don't want to deal with that. But when we watch the Krolan pilots take off, it appears the lightest aircraft was at the back and pushes one aircraft outward, and it looks like they're going to take off briefly, but they both stall and crash. So that's 2 less fighters we have to deal with, which is quite nice. I guess Penguin forgot to balance his fuel properly. Anyway, we tempt them away and we get ready to run on in there. We release our fighters. I take mine, having a few control issues. This is a very rolly plane is the problem. And I'm flying in, opening fire, not really getting any shots. And actually, the only shot I do get was on my own plane, so I feel pretty bad about that. But yes, I actually put that on guard mode and autopilot now because, there's occasional control issues. It just makes it easier to do that. Now, this dogfight, it was weird. There were a lot of problems. Now, a lot of Penguin's craft crashed into the ground because I think their minimum altitude was set to 500 meters, whereas the terrain is actually 1,200 meters above sea level. So I think a lot of them, it did very aggressive dives and kind of hit the ground. And I don't see a lot of this because this was a bit of a mess, actually, this dogfight. And the other thing that I started to realize is that my 20mm basically did nothing to these fighters. One of my fighters locks up and hits the ground, annoyingly, so we've lost one, but you can see there's a few things down on the ground, and I'm pretty sure that's some Krolan fighters. Yeah, you can see one's hit the ground there, there's a few other markers, another one hit the ground. I don't think my fighters shot them down, because when I was trying to shoot down some of these fighters, the 20mm just wouldn't do anything to the fuselage, and that's because BD Armory's been updated to, I guess, make bullets useless. But yeah, so, yeah, the footage isn't great, and because of the super bright ground, and I just don't really know what happened. This TE9 does escape, it just runs away, but I do notice there's a wing inside this wing. I think it's just mounting the guns on it, but that's probably got to add to maneuverability. But my planes are more maneuverable anyway, so clearly it doesn't affect it too much. And you can see me trying to have some pot shots here, trying to shoot down this plane, even though my guns aren't doing much. And it looks like we're actually going to manage to chase it into the ground, but it does pull out just at the last minute. Now, being so confused and annoyed at why my planes were flying weirdly, although it's actually flying fine here, meant that I wasn't looking around much, so I actually just don't really know what happened. You can see there's basically no Krolan fighters left. I know some of them hit the ground, one of them ran away. Yeah, I guess I've lost 2 fighters. Again, got no footage of that, have no idea what happened here. So yeah, I apologize for that. I don't know what happened. I know one of them ran away. So there were 7 fighters. 8 fighters? 2 of them crashed on the runway, one of them ran away. I think at least 3 hit the ground. So that's kind of what I think is happening. You can see my fighters are trying to light up this plane, but they're fairly inaccurate. I'm having too many control issues to shoot them myself. And when the 20mm do hit, they don't do too much. I assume 30mm would be more powerful, but 20mm should be enough to deal with a fighter plane. So yeah, maybe we need to balance the fuselage or something. And yeah, I keep trying to get pot shots, but I'm having, again, control issues and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, bottom line is, there's going to be no fighters here. Some of them probably got away, we'll call it 2. But I've cleared out the Air Force I even checked if max temperature was, the cheat was on. But yeah, so we totally, legitimately cleared out the fighters. I lost a couple, and after shooting for a while, I think I end up just running away, and you'll see what happens there. There is some interesting footage from this coming up, don't worry. You can see there's a bunch of markers on the ground there. That's all crash planes. It looked like there's 5 markers down there. I think one of mine actually did get shot down. But yeah, and that's, yeah, anyway, so at this point I think I just end up, you know, just not doing any damage. I turn and run. I'm like, that guy's probably out of ammo. He can't have that much 30 mil. So I get my fighters on my tail. I'm just going to leave. Maybe there'll be one fighter here for the tank battle. But then, no, it does have ammo. And it lights up one of my planes. It's doing great maneuvers, but it's just ripped apart really easily because these fuselages are pretty weak, and it was using 30 mils. And it buzzes right past us because they're so fast. My planes are more maneuverable, but the Corollan planes are much quicker. And yes, you can see I tried to shoot it, but then controls locked. So I just continue to run, kind of just, there's nothing I can do, you know? My guns aren't doing much. So this was pretty horrible. And then, yeah, at some point he does swoop down while I'm flying into the mountains and rip apart my wingman. You can see him coming in so fast and just tearing him apart. Yeah, these Corollan planes are very impressively quick. But anyway, I'm heading into the mountains. I don't want to die myself because, you know, I like me. So I decide we're gonna lead him into a crash. We'll lose him in the mountains, something like that. So I fly low. Some gunfire comes in right next to my plane. Manage to just dodge it by keeping nice and close to the ground, and it's gonna buzz right over me because it's so goddamn fast. And yeah, I'm just gonna try and get into some of these mountains. I thought it was gonna hit the ground, but it pulls out in this beautiful maneuver, and I thought, oh, that was just really awesome to see. But yes, then I fly up into the mountains. I do have my guns ready just in case, I don't know. They would be able to strip off wings, but yeah. So I don't know that these glitches really benefited anyone. A lot of Penguin's planes crashed, a lot of mine weren't very useful. I guess we'll try and solve this for next time. Maybe I'm just using the wrong fuselages or just need to use 30mm. It's probably largely my fault. Penguin had much success with his fighters last time. But anyway, yes, he flies over again. I'm not exactly sure what he's doing. I'm just trying to keep low, try and bring him onto my tail, and then swoop. I take a few shots, and I'm going to say I hit him because he hits the ground. But no, he dives low, slams into the mountain, and crashes. So there's my only really kill that I actually got. And then this fighter will go home. And then you can see, actually, I thought I was flying home now, but I'm actually flying towards the forward operating base, and there's lots of stuff all over the ground. But anyway, let's forget about the nonsense of whatever this happened and move on to the ground combat. Yes, my tanks are rolling in, but not together, because Burn Together, the mod we used to make things drive all at once, didn't really work. At first I was just driving forward, two of the tanks were heading backwards, so I invert their wheels. It should work, everything should go forward now. But then when I drive forward, those two go forward and the other ones go backward, because I think mods just hate me today. So what I had to do for this piece of tank combat was drive every tank individually, which was difficult. But what do we have here? Well, we have two TD2 Cyclopses. Those are actually heavy hulls and 128mm guns. Last time I said they were medium hulls and 105mm guns, which means they're way more expensive, so I only get two of them and a medium, not four. Anyway, yeah, so there's two TD2 Cyclopses, two G2 Hydras, which are the Tiger 2s in the middle, and two C2 Centaurs. This is the first wave. We're doing this in two waves. We're going to use our heavy tanks to hopefully soften up the enemy, and then bring in the smaller tanks and the G1 Gorgons to rip them apart from nice and close together. So the gunfire has started. And what we're taking some fire from Penguin's cruiser tanks right now. He put them up front, and I thought that initially that was a really bad idea. I was like, well, I'm just going to waste them. But it means I'm shooting at them and locking them on. They're getting some pretty good shots. They're firing very frequently, and it means that my heavy tanks are going to be facing off against his, cruiser tanks while also getting shot by his heavy tanks. And then, yeah, it's a very good strategy. It means when my lighter tanks roll in, they're going to be fighting the heavy tanks. So, props to the Corollans. They did a good job. But yeah, you can see we're taking some fire in between me switching to switching to drive each tank individually. There's a one shot almost hits the Centaur, but there's been a few hitting the Tigers. And actually, even though they're not penetrating the armor, some of them do manage to destroy the fuel inside, which means these get immobilized quite quickly. So I'm actually going to have to park these on the hill. The Tigers have been immobilized pretty quickly, so I'm parking them on the hill. One of them isn't immobile yet, but I had to park it so I could move these Centaurs, because driving them individually. But yeah, you can see there's just a slew of fire coming in. Even though they're, fairly small shells, they are doing damage. So what's going to happen here is my Tigers, the Hydras, the TD2 Hydras are going to sit on the hill as snipers while the other tanks roll in. This tank destroyer took a pretty nasty hit. I'm not exactly sure. Oh yeah, everything was destroyed. I think that one's been totally destroyed now, which isn't fantastic. So yes, we're not off to the best start. We've got 2 immobilized tanks, 1 destroyed tank destroyer, and the tank destroyer should really be sniping on these hills rather than the Tigers, because they have 120mm very accurate guns but can't turn them very much. But anyway, so now we're just gonna roll them with these Centaurs. I think they should be useful once I get close. And you can see we got a hit just on the hill. There was an explosion. I think that was on one of Penguin's cruiser tanks, the kind of medium light tanks that he's using. They seem to be doing a very good job. Their guns are powerful enough to, hassle even heavy tanks, but light enough that they fire very frequently. So yes, anyway. Now we're just trying to roll over this ridge. The tank destroyer has started firing again because its gun is finally at range, and the shell looks massive. You can see it flying in. Yes. Now I'm going to try and bring the Centaurs over the ridge as well, because they're going to go out of gun range pretty soon, because the ridge is going to be in the way, and hopefully get them close and start laying waste to at least some of those cruiser tanks, and maybe even put in some shots on those heavier tanks. There's actually 2 different types of adders on the hill. There are medium variants and heavy variants. They have the same gun but just different armor, but they both have high velocity 75mm. Just got another hit there quite nicely, but yeah, they have, like I said, they have high velocity 75mm guns, which are really deadly and very accurate, and when I get close we'll probably lay waste. So yes, I made a couple of miscalculations with this. I thought it was going to be a slaughter. I had more tanks. However, I underestimated how amazing the adders were, and how goddamn good the Ninias are. Those are the cruiser tanks. They're surprisingly good. We've just destroyed something. I think we destroyed the 88mm emplacement. I also thought I had 2 more C2 Centaurs for my next wave. I thought I'd have 4 for that, but I only will end up having 2. So that's going to hamstring me a little bit. This guy's just had his wheel knocked off, and yeah. So right now it's not going great. It looks like we've got some good hits, but we're taking a lot of fire, and we are kind of tactically outgunned. Because as these Centaurs and this Cyclops moves closer, they're going to still be firing at the lighter tanks, while the high velocity 76s are just you can see that Centaur's just getting trounced right here. Now the reason I didn't bring in the G1 Gorgons, which do have 152mm guns because they are heavy tanks, is because they're so inaccurate. I need to get them close, so these guys are basically trying to soften them up on the way. So another explosion on the hill. I think that was probably another Ninier. But yeah, this guy's been immobilized now. Its wheel's been ripped off and is taking a lot of hits. But these Centaurs, even with the more kind of realistic armor system, even with the bigger guns, they are still incredibly durable and just brutal. You can see they've got like holes in the front of this one's got a hole in the front of it now, and the armor on the back's just shattered and falling off, but it's still fighting and firing its gun, even though it's really getting slaughtered. So at this point, I'm just going to keep going with this Centaur, try and get close, try and do some damage. We are putting in some hits on the hill, and that's looking rather good, but there's just still so much gunfire coming in. It's, not looking great. This tank, I think, is about to go up. I think there's because on the hill there's also 88mm emplacements. I think one of them hits and just shreds this tank, because even against tanks, those 88mm emplacements are really deadly. Yeah, I think everything's still firing. I think one of the Hydras may have stopped firing, but at this point I'm just so flustered by how much of a shambles this has been that I'm not really focusing. This guy stopped firing briefly. That was another problem, is because I had to micromanage the tank so much. Some of them would stop firing because they would not be in a good position, and wouldn't be great, and I just wouldn't see it. Anyway, you can see some of my broken tanks are still getting shot at, I guess, and then this Centaur finally gets its wheel ripped off and kind of is going to be immobilized, but it'll still stay here and shoot for a while. It is a bloody durable tank. Looks like this Tiger stopped firing, but it does have electric charge, even though it doesn't have any fuel left. So what I'm going to try and do is get that one down into the ridge so that I can use it in my next wave, because if it sits here, it's just going to get killed, and it's not firing anyway. So what I'm going to try and do is just get this tank down behind the ridge where it's safe, come back in my next wave, push it over the ridge, and then we'll have another tank. The other one looks like it's still firing and can't move anyway. It's trapped on some metal. But yeah, I think that one will die. But yeah, so we're still fighting hard, but it looks like the Centaur's just about to go up. It's getting really pounded by high-velocity shells now, and it was not long for this world. Yes, we're also taking a few hits on the Cyclops. It's holding up well, though. It does have heavy armor, so that's probably... yeah, it should be fine, at least from these Nanias, but when those high-velocity 75 start aiming for the Cyclops, it's going to have real problems. This guy started slowly rolling down the hill so that we can, of course, put him behind the ridge. He's not firing, which is annoying. That's another problem. It looks... I just tried there and made sure that he can fire, but apparently not. This, I think this tank gets a pretty nasty hit. I think it knocked out the fuel, and... yeah, it looks like this guy is not... I don't really know why I'm moving him forward. That'll make him worse at shooting. I should have just left him where he is. The Centaur's still holding up. Those are bloody bloody tough tanks. But even though they are old, but I think it's just dropped off the map now. I think it is dead. This gets a 75 clean through the front. You can see there's a hole, and it is just immobilized and dead. Looks like the Tiger's firing again now that it's at the bottom of the hill. And yes, it looks like we've lost this. This tank isn't going to fire, even though it can. Everything else is dead, and the other Tiger is hiding. I keep calling them Tigers because that's what they're based off. Their real name is Hydra. They're G2 Hydra, which is the designation for my heavy tanks is G. So we've got the G1 Gorgon and the G2 Hydra. And of course, everything is named after... kind of, I think, Greek mythological creatures is what I went for. So you got Minotaur, Centaur, Hydra, Gorgon, Cyclops. But anyway, the first wave of tank assault went poorly and is over. But we're about to send in our second wave, but I wasn't going to let them go in against that full force by themselves. So we have launched a wonder weapon. What is this magical thing? It is flying, but nothing is spinning. There's smoke coming out of the back. It's much faster than a normal plane. Well, this, dear friends, is what we call a jet fighter. I know, it's pretty insane. And this is packing some 30mm guns. And I'm going to go in there and strafe those tanks because we used all of our other planes. So we're going to send in a wonder weapon to strafe up these tanks. And we're lining up our shot now, getting some shots on target. And when they land, hopefully they will rip apart this tank here. I've got to stay fairly a little far away so that I don't go too close to those 20mm emplacements. They'll shred me pretty easily. The 88 isn't going to be much trouble, and I think actually right now it's firing at one of the Tigers on the one of the Hydras on the hill. So I think actually gets a kill on a tank during my strafing run. I think we did get an explosion down there on that tank. It looks like we did do some damage. Now. Oh yes, there's the dead Hydra. Now one of the other problems is Vessel Mover tends to put Kerbals in the turret, not in the cockpit. So when you destroy a cockpit, a tank is dead, but during battle, obviously you can't tell that instantly. So I'd be destroying cockpits and the tanks wouldn't die. Now this actually didn't benefit me that much because I also had the same problem where there were Kerbals in our cockpits, so that's why that last tank battle, none of Penguin's things dropped off Vessel Switcher, but yeah, I think in my next wave that's also a problem. Yes, you can see we've destroyed the cockpit, but it's still firing. I didn't know this at this point, and it was, no one's fault. But this particular kind of mess of a video showing off this tank battle probably won't be representative of how tanks will perform. I know in my next wave as well there were Kerbals in the guns instead of in the cockpits, so it didn't really benefit anyone. And I think the main reason Penguin won is because he had a much more orderly, kind of well-designed defense and much more orderly set of tanks, whereas I just had a mess of whatever I had to hand. But that's just something to bear in mind. It didn't benefit anyone, I don't think. But I think that other tank battles will be more interesting than the ones we've had here, which have just been very long and weird. But yes, anyway, enough of that. We do some strafing, and you know, if I'd known the rule, this would have been more effective, but we do get some damage on. We do start knocking out cannon shells, and that's pretty good, because, I mean, most of these tanks are going to be pretty low on cannon shells now. And we actually pretty much just destroy one of the Ninias, one of the cruiser tanks, because it's quite small, and the 30mm just rip straight through it, because it's got light armor on it. And yes, and now we're just going to escape, because I think we're out of ammo. And yeah, we have no problem escaping. That 88mm by itself isn't too deadly, and the tanks start firing at me a little bit, but it's no problem. And yeah, I think Penguin did launch two 88mm, but I destroyed one of them during the tank battle. And yes, anyway, I wasn't quite happy enough with that, so I'm spending my final supply unit to launch another jet. Now, I kind of needed that supply unit to potentially fix tanks after the battle, or fix the city that had a 12,000-pound tall boy dropped on it last turn by Penguin. But apparently, I need jets because I need Kethenia's Valley more than I need, you know, Rockdale. So yes, we are on the ropes right now. But I do get some shots in, and we will see some beautiful explosions of that tank getting eviscerated. Yes, these jets are proving very useful, very fast, very maneuverable. They're quite nice. They're based roughly on Gloucester Meteors, if you can tell. Of course you can. They look beautiful. They actually only look okay, but yeah, these are my Gloucester Meteors. They're actually called S14X Mustangs. I think in the last one it just said Fighter Jet Proto because I forgot to rename it. But yeah, S4X Mustangs. And we just keep unloading a bunch of ammo into these. It's not that successful this time, but we do get some good explosions, I think, on one of the adders. And yeah, now we're just going to run away and send in the next wave of tanks, which is smaller than I thought it would be. So yes, what do we have here? Well, we have one M3 Minotaur, a very old light tank with a 20mm gun. We have two G1 Gorgons with 152mm dirt guns, which if we get anywhere near the enemy, will just eviscerate everything anywhere near them. And two trusty C2 Centaurs. Not actually the last of our Centaurs, we have more. Although I've just, you know, I'm spending a huge amount of units to try and hold off the Grolans. I do still have two more in Rockdale. I have a lot of tanks. Now I thought that was enough to give me a total advantage, but it turns out better tanks help. So me sending in 4 low velocity 76mm isn't as good as having 6 high velocity 76mm, and using all of my heavy tanks to just shoot some light tanks while the enemy heavy tanks are fine apparently isn't a very good strategy. And also the 152mm derp guns aren't very accurate and don't have great range. Also this M3 Minotaur, useless. You know, it has terrible armor, the gun I don't think can even damage light tanks, and it has a range of 1.5 kilometers. So, yeah, I am not a tactician, as it were. It turns out that I just have a lot of units. So yeah. Anyway, after taking a little bit of gunfire, we do get behind this ridge. We take no damage, which is good, but we get behind this ridge preparing to move up, because now we've got to push this heavy tank over the ridge using the Gorgon, because that had its engine destroyed in the last battle. And yeah, we're just going to push it up this hill now, get it over the ridge, get it firing, and then move all of those other tanks over the ridge and start firing. That's why I moved them right to the top, so we can do this fairly quickly. So yeah, it actually starts pushing fairly fast. We got up to like 5 meters per second. This tank's pretty damaged, but it still works, and it still has an 88mm high velocity gun, which we really need. So yeah, I ended up pushing it. Actually, yeah, it took a little while. It started lifting to the left, which was quite nice because it brought it in line with my other tanks. We pushed it past the other Gorgon, and we'll soon be cresting this ridge where the 88 can once again fire up and hopefully knock out some of those high-velocity 75s. It is pretty damaged. There are holes in the armor. It's on its last legs, but yeah, it should, you know, it should do some damage. But anyway, then we're going to back the Gorgon up, then send up the Centaurs because we'll know they'll be able to shoot. I don't think the Gorgon's guns will actually hit from this range. I know they won't hit, I just don't think they'll even activate. So we're going to send up these Centaurs because those will be shooting even with the lower velocity guns. They could do some damage. Some of those medium tanks, yeah, I mean some of them are medium tanks, so these 76s can easily punch through medium armor. You can see even damage the Hydra is just absorbing those shells until a little later it starts taking some serious hits, and I think it's dead. which isn't great. So it got about 5 shots off. All that pushing up the hill, it got about 5 shots off and then was just eviscerated because it has holes in the armor and some of the rounds came through the holes and sort of destroyed the tank. Anyway, then I'm going to send out this little piece of cannon fodder known as the M3 Minotaur. Of course, actually a hero of many battles in Osiris Bay, but now just a piece of cannon fodder. Obviously, you know, I treat my crews very well, you know, they're not cannon fodder. I mean, yeah, he got over the ridge and instantly died, that's what that explosion was. You know, the tank's totally knocked out, but I think the pilot's alive, so, I mean, I'm calling that a victory. Anyway, now we're getting the Gorgons up over the hill, because we've got to get them close, we've got to get them firing, because if a 152mm shell hits any tank, it's just going to be gone. You can see we're actually taking some hits on the Centaurs now, but we know they're so goddamn strong that you can hit them with anything and they'll just endure, because they're... I don't know. I mean, they have a pretty modular armor design, and, you know, they've got a lot of slanting curves, but I think they're just very kind of... I don't know, you know, they don't look like real tanks. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the military is building tanks wrong. Maybe they should employ me, you know? It's, this is evidence right here, although, you know, maybe evidence for me not being a brilliant tactician, so maybe they shouldn't employ me. Yeah, I've said before that Penguin has tactically outmaneuvered me, even when my planes outmaneuver his, and even when my tanks do better than they do today, you know? I mean, yeah, I should play more Hearts of Iron, you know? His grand plan is somehow just smashing through my lines of seemingly infinite tanks. I thought that would be enough today, but my tanks were too inconsistent. I had those Cyclopses, those aren't great for assaulting, for assaulting because their guns don't turn that much. Yeah, I had two Hydras, which would have been really useful. The Gorgons aren't great until they're close, and the Centaurs, I thought I had 2 more of them, and they don't have very high velocity guns. But yeah, anyway. We are still rolling in. These Gorgons are pretty tough. That one just took a hit from, I think, probably a 75, and it's just fine. And yeah, we're going to try and get up that ridge, because I think that's where these dirt guns will come into their own, when I can just, you know, just push them up against the enemy tank and just fire. I think that's when dirt guns are at, you know, maximum accuracy, when they're just on the target. So yes, we will be pushing up. Now, there's a lot of shells coming in. I think Centaurs are, you know, on the ropes now. This Gorgon, oh Jesus, takes a massive shell in the front, is just stopped because all of the tank just fell off. I don't know what hit it. I think it was probably simultaneous shells. And this is going to have to stay here now, hopefully getting shots, but probably not because the range is too great. And yeah, but this Gorgon will head up the hill, backed by another Centaur. I think the other one got immobilized. Yeah, something exploded up the hill. It's small victories, you know. Yeah, so this is going to run up the hill now. I think it's taking more fire on that Gorgon. I think, again, one of the Centaurs back there has been immobilized totally. This one's still going, though. It's still going to hopefully get up this hill and join the Gorgon and, you know, probably Valhalla, because it's probably going to die. But hopefully do some damage first, because I'm not thinking I'm going to win this now. I've just got to hurt them enough that I can stop them keeping Kethenia's Valley. But hey, you never know. These tanks are pretty tough. The Gorgon is pretty insane. With a 152mm gun. This, if we can get around to the side of one of those heavy tanks or just in front of a medium tank, it can definitely put a shell through it. But then I noticed some gunfire coming in at the Gorgon, and I was like, oh shit, it's 50 cal fire, but it's actually just 30 caliber fire from one of the Neneas. It's actually run out of ammo and is shooting its 30 caliber at me right now. It actually destroys the fuel in the front of the tank, really annoyingly, but it doesn't cause much serious damage. And I have enough electric charge in there that I'll be able to get it up the ridge anyway. But yes, you can see just 30 cal fire, just desperately like, oh god, don't kill me, just bouncing off the tank. It's really cool to see. This new armor system is really good. You know, you just won't get through heavy armor with a 30 cal like before you could. Yeah, shell's still coming in, but I think, oh wow, I think that giant tank shell just bounced right off the Gorgon. It must have been I know, those look like high-velocity shells. Jesus Christ, this is goddamn invincible. Anyway, this guy my dirt gun won't shoot at what I want it to shoot at. So I'm going to try and just knock out this Nenea in front of me anyway. The rules have been a little relaxed on things like this, and we do, I think, almost destroy the Nenea. I think it actually survives because it hits just next to it. But yeah, like, if you're right near a tank and now, and the guard mode's trying to shoot something else, you can take control of the turret and actually like control it properly, because it was a bit ridiculous before. But you can't use like, but you have to use guard mode on approach, because otherwise you can like sneak shots over ridges and things, and it just gets ridiculous. And the Centaur's doing pretty well. We've gotten very close to this ridge, but it does. Ooh, that's a nasty hit. It rips off the wheel, well, the tread. And it looks like that's going to be immobilized too. So, it is down to the Gorgon, the final tank from my seemingly endless and still not depleted arsenal of tanks, to head up there. We took a pretty nasty hit, and it ripped off some armor and wheel archers and stuff. It looks like our damage tanks are still firing, actually, but they're probably, the derp gun over there probably won't hit, and the Centaur's probably not long for this world, and probably is almost out of ammo, actually. But like I said, those would have been actually legitimately destroyed by now, but we both made the mistake of putting Kerbals in the gun. But that doesn't matter, because it gave us this about to be a pretty amazing scene of this derp gun cresting the ridge and putting a round into one of the adders. So yes, with our last breath of electric charge, which is quickly running out after that 30 cal, actually it might not have been 30 cal, I think it was probably a shell. Something destroyed the fuel, but we do just get over the ridge. I take manual control of the derp gun. I line it up with the adder right in front of me. I think I take a round in the face just before I'm ready to fire. Yeah, right there. Does a bunch of damage. I wait for the smoke to clear. I apparently light it up with my 50 cal for some reason. Why am I doing that? I don't know, but apparently I start firing my 50 cal. But then I'm like, no, maybe 152mm will be slightly better against a medium tank. I fire it, and the tank just pops and gets totally eviscerated. I checked, the gun came off. I think the gun was destroyed, and yeah, so that's that one dead. But this is pretty much the end of the battle. I did get one more good shot manually, but the derp gun's too inaccurate, and the battle was over, really. I get a shot, and it takes a good hit and does some damage to that tank. So, yes, this battle went... I really thought this would go better, but I just overestimated the power of my just ragtag group of tanks. And also, yeah, not super great. But what Penguin's actually left with is 2 medium tanks, I think? Yeah, 2 medium tanks and 2 cruiser tanks. Now, they're going to roll into Osiris. They're going to roll into Kethenia's Valley. And I'm hopefully going to be able to bomb them out next time, because there'll only be 4 tanks. I can, yeah, just, pull some stuff out, and we'll stop them getting Kethenia's Valley. This battle went horribly, but it is not lost. We'll push them back next time. And in that vein of pushing back next turn, I've pulled my Air Force back to Kethenia's heart. Yes, this is my main base. Yes, this is our last line of defense. So I've pulled my 2 jets and my remaining S-6F Sparrow back here so that they can attack Kethenia's Valley next turn. I think if I leave them there, they're just going to get knocked out by something, and I want to have all of the cards in my hands. So... yeah, Kethenia's Valley will be fairly undefended. There are some emplacements there that Penguin's tanks will have to get through. Some of them are actually 76mm, so they could do some serious damage. But I doubt he'll have too much trouble walking into there. But we want that to happen. We want the Corolans to walk in so that we can tear them apart next time when we have all of the control. Yeah, so hopefully that'll happen. But now we must move our thoughts to another impending battle which looks stacked against us. We are here at Osiris Fortress. Yes, there is about to be a massive naval invasion here with, battleships, super battleships, aircraft carriers, just so many cruisers. But yeah, we have been amassing our forces. I will be launching a super battleship next turn, because I don't want it to get bombed out, and I also want to perfect it. People have been saying, oh, you should launch one now. I'm like, to do what? It's just, I'll launch it just before the battle so that it is, most likely to survive and can face off against the Yamato. Now, it will be an Iowa-class battleship, which should be pretty awesome. But yeah, what we've deployed this turn is another light cruiser for AA defense and another battle cruiser. So now we have, I think, 3 heavy cruisers, 2 battle cruisers, 2 light cruisers, and 4 frigates. And next turn, a super battleship. An Iowa-class battleship. You're goddamn right. It's going to be awesome. But yes, I hope you have enjoyed this. I know it's been a bit of a shambles for various reasons, like the dogfight was a bit of a mess, the tank battle was a huge miscalculation on my part, and it's looking kind of dark for Kethenia, but we will come back to this. We will be back. They're not going to take Kethenia's Valley. They're going to roll in there, and we're going to push them back. And then we're going to push them back some more. And then we're going to march on Kaliningrad. I know that looks kind of like probably impossible, but yeah, we're going to do it, man. So yeah. I am going to prepare myself my personal bunker, though, just in case. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you haven't given up hope on your less than glorious leader for Kethenia. And yes, I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been KSP with Tape. I will see you next time.